Coming up this week, OffScreen.
Nicolas Cage's The Runner.
We meet Malala Yousafzai in He Named Me Malala.
We study the Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse.
Nicholas Hoult sets out to kill your friends.
Kevin Pollak insists misery loves comedy.
Bradley Cooper is burnt.
And Saoirse Ronan takes us all to Brooklyn.
All those to come and more OffScreen.
This is OffScreen. OffScreen. With the latest film news and reviews, this is OffScreen, the on-screen radio show.
Welcome to OffScreen. I'm Van Connor.
My name is Kase Allen.
So, interesting ones this week then. And Kill Your Friends, which I keep calling it Kill Your Darlings, or that was Daniel Radcliffe.
That was a while ago, yeah, it was Daniel Radcliffe.
So, Kill Your Friends this week, which I know you're a big fan of the book. So
I certainly am. I love that book.
I'm looking forward to discussing that one with you, because there's some book expertise I require from it.
Okay, I'm your man.
So, where should we start? Should we start with Burnt?
Yeah, Mr. Bradley Cooper.
So, Mr. Bradley Cooper in Burnt, which is a sort of a dark dramedy, sort of black comedy / dramedy, less of the comedic aspect though, and it is the story of a chef, Adam Jones, played by Bradley Cooper, who has been in sort of self-imposed exile when the film begins. He's been in self-imposed exile, setting himself the goal of shucking 1 million oysters. He keeps a log of them in a notebook, and when he's finished, he decides to return to London to open a restaurant and win and redeem himself by winning his 3rd Michelin star, and thus overcoming and confronting the demons that led to his public fall from grace years earlier. Here's a clip.
Michelin sends its inspectors to restaurants to eat and award stars. 1, 2, 3.
Or none.
No one knows who they are. No one. They come, they eat, they go. But they have habits. They have to stick to a routine to give every restaurant the same chance. Michelin men eat in pairs.
Sometimes the Michelin man can even be a woman.
They always book a table before 7:30. The first of the pair arrives early and has a drink at the bar. His partner arrives half an hour later. One orders the tasting menu, the other one a la carte. Always. They order half a bottle of wine, they ask for tap water, they wear business suits, they're polite. But, attention, they may place a fork on the floor, under the table to see if you notice. And they wouldn't drop it, because that could make a noise and make it too easy.
Everything from now on must be perfect. Not good, not excellent. Perfect.
Here's the funny thing with Bradley Cooper. Most people seem to sort of ignore this rather small fact. Bradley Cooper used to be a TV actor. Do you remember that?
That he did, yeah, I do remember that.
He did, and I remember him mostly from Alias, if I'm honest, because that's where I sort of noted him from. And then he turned up years later in Failure to Launch and The Hangover.
Crashes. I think
The Wedding
that was
Crashers.
the first place I actually saw him.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, Bradley Cooper seemed to be a movie actor. And then he got an Oscar nom. And
then another.
And somewhere along the line, we've all forgotten that he was a TV actor. Now, I've never particularly bought into him as a movie actor, so I've always thought it is what happens when you put a TV actor on, on the big screen. You get TV results. We had this with Jennifer Aniston for years, up until sort of Horrible Bosses showed us actually she could do something more theatrical with it. Now, when he was on TV, Bradley Cooper starred in a series called Kitchen Confidential. Are you familiar with this one?
I am.
You are. This is loosely based on Anthony Bourdain, who at the time was not the celebrity he is now. And it was kind of funny and dark-hearted. It was a comedic sort of take on a chef who had a public fall from grace and then opened a new restaurant to redeem himself. So
I'm sure I've heard that before.
So you can imagine my sort of surprise when you rock up to the screening of Burnt, and Bradley Cooper's playing a burnt-out chef who's had a public fall from grace, and he wants to open a restaurant and redeem himself. What? And obviously Kitchen Confidential left a lasting impression on him, but yeah. So, funnily enough, he's actually the most enjoyable he's been in some time. Most mainstream enjoyable, and less of the sort of dialed-down pseudo-Oscar waffle he normally turns in. Yeah. Because he always just feels like, I'm a comedian, but I really want to be taken seriously.
But David Russell is my best friend.
Yeah, it does feel like that. This is the most fun he's been in a good long while. And it helps that he's surrounded with this really great ensemble. So you've got the likes of Daniel Bruhl.
Yeah, love Daniel Bruhl.
Who doesn't love Daniel Bruhl? And he's really, really sort of charming and likeable in this. You've got Omar Sy as well.
He's great.
Also great. And wouldn't you know it, playing a Frenchman. Who knew?
Kind of typecast, isn't he?
A bit typecast
Apart from
there.
in Jurassic World, because I don't know how he's supposed to be from.
No, I don't know. He's Haitian, I
I
think.
guess, I don't know.
That's kind of French. You know? You've got Uma Thurman, who's basically unrecognisable in her little cameo. And that's the thing, there are loads of these little cameos. So you've got Uma Thurman turns up for a little cameo, and she does not look like Uma Thurman anymore. She looks like some old lady.
Okay.
And then you've got Alicia Vikander. She turns up for this little cameo as well.
Love Alicia Vikander.
I do love Alicia Vikander as well. We've got some film news about her later.
I
You
thought
know the
we
film
might.
news,
I do, yeah.
And then you've got, say, standing front and centre alongside Cooper, you've got Daniel Bruhl, obviously, and Sienna Miller. And she's got the sort of will they, won't they, love interest type thing, and it's faintly engaging, I would say. She's perfectly fine in it. Everyone is perfectly fine. They're enjoyable. Emma Thompson's got a little sort of supporting role in it as this sort of thankless therapist type. It is breezy, and it is sort of enjoyable, and it is flimsy, and sort of, it is, the problem is, it's not 5-star cuisine, it is Nando's. In fact, no, selling it short, we had this out earlier, sorry. It is,
We did, yeah.
Someone promises you 5-star cuisine and then takes you to Harvester. That's what you get with this film.
But sometimes all you want is the $9.99 Harvester meal deal. You want the salad bar, you want that, you want the ribs.
This is not the paid-for product placement, FYI.
I feel like I work for them.
We could.
I wish I did.
We should have contacted them in advance.
Let's do it, yeah.
Next time.
Next time there's a food set film.
But that's it. I mean, the problem is the film is so unchallenging. The film goes in every direction that you know it will, and it's it's got a brief amount of flair from John Wells, who's directing here. Stephen Knight's written this as well.
Like Stephen Knight,
Locke, yeah. But this is nowhere near sort of Locke caliber. It's a rather tepid screenplay. It's not boiling; it's simmering.
See what you did there.
But that's the problem. It's not fine dining, it's casual dining. And that's it. I mean, it's not unenjoyable, it's just not very challenging. It's kind of flavourless, to keep the food pun going. And you really expected something more.
You need a bit of spice sometimes.
You put it this way, I would genuinely recommend, if you're on the fence about seeing Burnt, or dropping the money and seeing Burnt, go and order the DVD box set of Kitchen Confidential, and you'll get the same thing done better, and with a strangely more enjoyable cast, because that had Frank Langella and Nicholas Brandon and
What a great cast, that, actually.
I did. Now you look back at it now.
Frank Langella, man.
Frank Langella. Yeah. So, film news for the week. Should we start with the Alicia Vikander?
Let's do it. A nice little segue.
Segue. So Alicia Vikander has been linked to the role of Elizabeth Salander in the upcoming reboot of the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo series, or the Millennium Trilogy, but it's now 4 parts. Because it is now. Is it the Millennium Quadrilogy?
Quadrilogy, I guess.
Millennium
We're going to make the 4th in the trilogy.
The fourth in the trilogy.
Yeah.
In the trilogy. So it's going to be the Girl in the Spider's Web, I think.
Yes, that's
Which is going to be Sony's reboot of the Girl.
I think that is fine casting, and they're jumping on an actress who is obviously having quite a meteoric rise this year. So.
She is. I mean, she's having a hell of a year.
Absolutely.
Good for her. She
Yeah,
she
I like
kind
her
of
a lot.
deserves it. Yeah, she does. Absolutely. So, next review.
Let's move on. Okay, Scout's Guide to Zombie Apocalypse.
Right, okay, I want to point out that Alan Frank and I differ wholeheartedly on this. I see 90% of my films with Alan Frank.
Yeah.
And Alan Frank is 79 years old. He's reviewed films for, I think, 3 times longer than I've been alive. So, I'm not kidding. He's 55 years or something, he told me once. So twice as long as I've been alive, realistically. And he loved this, and I didn't so much. But just an interesting preview.
I will hear you out.
Okay, hear me out. So, this is the story of 3 high school age Boy Scouts. One of them is played by Ty Sheridan. Remember him?
Yeah, from Mud.
Mud, yeah, Ty Sheridan.
He's going to be an X-Men.
He's going to be an X-Men. Although after this, you may wish he wasn't. And they are 3, sort of high school age Boy Scouts. They're only still in the Boy Scouts because one of them had a dad who was really involved in it, and the dad passed away, and so the other 2 stick around to support him.
That's
as
nice.
it were. But they want to drop out because it's nerdy. You can't go to college as a Boy Scout. And on the night of the big secret senior party, wouldn't you know it, the zombie apocalypse breaks out.
That's unfortunate, isn't it?
And our trio of Boy Scouts find themselves alone in a quarantine town with most of the population having been evacuated, save, naturally enough, for this secret party, and have to go and rescue the would-be love interest, and there's a Cloris Leachman zombie in there. And insert age joke here. Here's a clip.
Oh, sad. I think something's in here.
Augie.
So the thing to say about the Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse is, first and foremost, is there anyone who's still getting excited by the zombie comedy anymore?
Oh, clearly.
I mean, Cooties aside.
I was just going to say, a few weeks ago when Cooties
Cooties, that was great, but that was a nice surprise because we've just been numbed by how many awful ones there've been.
Yeah.
This is directed by Christopher B. Landon, who brought us Paranormal Activity: The Marked Ones.
That cinematic classic.
I bring that up because that was the one that was unintentionally funny to an unfathomable degree, where you couldn't help but wonder if it was actually intentional. Did he know?
Was it set in Mexico? Was it?
No, it was set in LA, but it was the Hispanic community, and it was sort of racially comedic, but it seemed to be backhandedly racially comedic, and you sort of wondered if he had any comedic chops. Doing this, you kind of think, he might. Maybe he does. He's picked a terrible film to do it with. I mean, it's a horror comedy that isn't horrific or funny, so you kind of failed the mandate right there. I mean, there's a couple of little gags in there. The town's called Deerfield, and there's a sign at one point, Deerfield, and it's Haddonfield, 40 miles. You're like, okay, that's the cleverest gag in the whole film. It opens with this cameo by Blake Anderson from Workaholics. You know, the one with the shaggy dog hair.
Oh, yeah, I love that guy.
Who inadvertently starts the zombie apocalypse because he's high at work, you know. So, but the only problem with that is that appearance by one of the trio from Workaholics makes you wish you were watching Workaholics instead.
What about if you're watching Workaholics doing this kind of film, like the central trio?
Shaun of the Dead style. They went from space to... Yeah, if that would... Do you know what?
That'd be good. Or if they were like the Scout Masters, were like the Scout leaders.
Yeah, you kind of think maybe, because there would be more pedigree in the writing, I think. Let's get to the cast then. So Ty Sheridan, I can't tell if he seems to think that this is going to be the next Shaun of the Dead, because I can't think of any other reason he'd have done this. It's not in any way the next Shaun of the Dead. He's autopiloting through it on a sort of orgy shucks kind of a card. Logan Miller, who apparently is some sort of Disney Channel child star.
That's definitely a Disney Channel name, isn't it?
Logan Miller, yeah. He is trying to be this sort of teenage Jason Segel type. Maybe a hint of Stifler in there. The
kind of taller, gawky kind of...
4 years ago,
yeah,
this would have been, what's his name, who I don't like from Fantastic Four, Miles Teller. This would have been 4 years ago, this was Miles Teller.
All I heard then was But One I Don't Like, and I was just going to say Miles Teller.
Yeah,
you didn't even need to
say Fantastic Four.
It was obviously going to be Miles Teller.
Yeah. Logan Miller at one point is genuinely out-acted by his own buttock, and I'm not making that up. That actually happens. You then got a third one who's so forgettable you actually have to IMDb him to find out the actor's name. I have written it down. It's Joey Morgan. They just save you the IMDb search because you will forget him immediately. You've got of the female cast, you have Sarah Dumont, who's the female lead. Of her previous work,
what's she done?
Most notably, she's number 60 on Maxim's Top 100, Hot 100 of 2014.
Good for her.
So good for her. Okay. Yeah, good for you, Sarah. Good for you. And she's passably enjoyable. She's the sort of vampy, ass-kicking
hot
stripper.
Chick, kind of,
who sort of takes them under her wing, takes the pubescent boys under her slightly older wing, kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know. And then you've got who I keep referring to as Rachel McAdams 2.0, Halston Sage.
Oh, I can see that.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Halston Sage. Yeah. And she is the single most thankless love interest you've seen in a movie this year. The ending of it is, as far as her character goes, is just hilariously sort of course you did. But it's right. The fact that her female character is out. She's cast aside in favour of an empowered stripper in hot pants. That kind of tells you everything you need to know about the love interest in this film. There's serious pacing issues. I mean, it's a 90-minute film, 40 minutes before the zombie apocalypse. Really? Shaun of the Dead did this in 10.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Zombieland did it in the credits.
Zombieland did it in the credits with Metallica, no
Oh,
less.
that's such a great opening, yeah.
Should we just stop this now? Just go and watch Zombieland.
I might actually watch it tonight. I've not seen that for a long time.
But it's very paint by numbers script. There's no real flair to it, and it's got a very, very forgettable cast. But you'll come away from it thinking, oh yeah, it's the guy from Workaholics. And he's not even one of the main characters. That's the part that amuses me.
It's kind of like, it sounds like the Drew Barrymore in Scream.
It is kind of like that, yeah. It's not particularly inspiring. It's gimmicky enough to pull in a few punters in the brief window before it turns up on Netflix.
Yeah, I guess 'cause it has the word zombie in the title.
Yeah, it kind of
reels
is.
them in.
If it reminds you of anything, it's going to be those sort of comic book series that publishers like Icon put out.
Yeah.
They're not really mainstream comics, but they have a little cult following. The comic series will sell 10,000 issues as opposed to 100,000, you know. But,
And Dan's rating is eh.
My rating is eh. So, some film news before we move on.
Some more, yes please.
Ooh, Wild Tales. Do you know of Wild Tales? I'm not particularly familiar with it.
I don't think so.
The helmer of Wild Tales, Damien Zifron, his name is, has signed on as the director of the long gestating movie reboot, The $6 Billion Man.
Oh, with Marky Mark.
With Marky Mark. With Cyber Marky Mark in this
I love
case.
it. The original is for 6 million. I know it's for $6 billion.
Yeah, well, we're getting to a stage where it's going to have to be 6 billion
Yeah.
soon, but 6 trillion soon, sorry. It's also got a release date now as well, December 22nd, 2017.
yeah.
So, one final bit as well. Nicole Kidman has entered negotiations to star in Wonder Woman.
Yeah, I heard about this. Potentially as the main villain, main antagonist.
Which is the main villain? Oh, I had her down as Wonder Woman's mum in my head.
Well, I could see that working, yeah.
I could see it working.
Kind of doing like with Russell Crowe, Jor-El for Wonder Woman.
Yeah, kind of work, I suppose. She'll just be like a alien hologram, the holographic equivalent of the Microsoft paperclip. I see you are trying to resurrect a dormant species.
I like Russell Crowe in that film.
He's not the problem with Man of Steel. No. I assure you, he is not. I will find you.
Oh, fantastic!
Before taking off in space penises.
Space penises, yeah. What is that all about?
I will find him. And then it takes a couple of years.
Crazy Eyes Shannon.
Eddie Redmayne then comes along. I create life.
I create life. Quiet loud, quiet loud, quiet loud.
So should we do the box office top 10 then?
Let's do it.
Number 10.
Crimson Peak.
It's on its way out, isn't it?
It is. So I did enjoy it. I did like it.
I like it. I do.
It's a bit of gothic fun.
It is. What's not to like? Guillermo del Toro. It's a bit predictable. Fine.
Definitely.
Yeah. You know what? I don't think. But it's right. I don't think Pacific Rim really pushed the boat out with a complex narrative. If we're honest,
no.
It pushed the boat out with, whoa, yeah, heroics.
It's not really what he's doing now. I mean, obviously that was something that he's done in his former cinematic life.
He's twisted and turned before, and now we've got we've got sort of a narratively by the numbers, but visually and stylistically interesting film.
It's a house that bleeds.
It is a house that bleeds, literally.
Which is great.
That's my favourite thing about Crimson Peak. I sat there in the press show for that, and when you're in a room full of film critics, you all laugh at the sort of the in jokes kind of thing. And when it gets to the stage where Tom Hiddleston, very early on in the film, says, "Oh yeah, this red clay bleeds through the walls in my house," we all
nonchalantly,
just furious laughing in the screening room. We're thinking, "Yeah, of course it is. Of course your house bleeds, Tom. Keep doing your Peter Cushing thing. We know your house bleeds." And fair play. And you know what? After the joy that was Pacific Rim, it's nice to know in his follow up to that Charlie Hunnam does not have the worst accent in a Del Toro film.
No.
Because as bad as his American accent is, Jessica Chastain's British one is far.
It is abysmal.
Far worse.
She is a fantastic actress.
Isn't she an Oscar-nominated actress?
Twice.
Twice Oscar, and she can't do an English accent. Oh man! And I rewatched Interstellar last night. And,
did you really?
I did, and you know what? She's so good in that.
Number 9.
We have Inside Out.
Bing bong.
Don't. I'll start welling up.
No. Have you seen
Tears will come flowing.
The Honest trailer for Inside Out is out at the moment? Have you seen this? And if you've not seen the Honest trailer for Inside Out, it is absolutely terrific. Do check it out on Screen Junkies feed.
Feels.
It's on our feed somewhere as well.
It's great.
It's so good, and it really hits the nail on the head.
Absolutely.
And this is because I've watched it a couple of times in the last couple of weeks now, and I'm starting to get more of the sort of unadulterated love of the film. I liked it very much. Now I get the love because those characters are so endearing, and
really are.
And it is, in a sense, it is classically Pixar. And I love Lewis Black. I love Amy Poehler.
Yeah, I think
Phyllis
casting
Smith.
is...
the casting is what makes it.
Just a quick thing about the lady who plays Sadness,
Phyllis
Smith.
Yeah.
I was reading an interview. She was a casting director.
Was she?
Yeah.
Because I know
prior to
she's
The
in.
Office.
I know her from The Office.
Yeah, well, prior to being in The Office, she was a casting director, and she says that she would love a casting director to get like an Oscar award of her own.
No, it kind of works.
it'd be quite interesting, yeah.
in a sense, yes. The funny story, though, with The
makes
Office,
sense,
and you'll
really.
know this more than most people, was that most of the cast members of The Office actually were behind-the-scenes people.
Well, yeah, of course. Yeah.
So a lot of them
I
were
like
the
that.
writers and the producers, and they all became the cast members as well. So it kind of makes sense that the casting director did as
Just ended up
well.
being it. She's very good.
Because everyone else did. Hey,
Yeah.
wardrobe people are starring in the show. Why not? I can think of no other explanations to what BJ Novak did for a living. he was the guy that went and got you a blazer.
Yeah.
Number 8.
Tannhauser, Met Opera. Yeah.
I think I can safely say that neither of us has seen Tannhauser Met Opera.
Number 7.
Ugh. Vin Diesel in The Last Witch Hunter.
Well, you know how they keep trying to do a spin-off to the series Supernatural? This actually would work, strangely enough.
Really?
This actually would work. And that's the thing, it does feel like something that inevitably in about 3 or 4 years' time the Sci-Fi Channel's going to pick up as a sequel series. You know, like they did with
I
Legion.
think it would work better as, yeah.
You know how Legion became Dominion on the Sci-Fi
Yeah.
Channel, and it feels like this could go that way. And I would watch it as a TV show, I must admit, as disposable supernatural action.
Yeah, just throw away.
Fine, a 45-minute dose a week, but it's not a film. It's not a wholly satisfying film. It is basically entertaining and nothing more. It's idiotic, but it's supernaturally idiotic.
Number 6.
Spuds in space. The Martian.
Is there anything left? Is there a compliment left in either of us?
I know.
throw at The Martian?
We have gushed heavily about
We love
this
it.
film.
We love it. We love the music. We love Ridley Scott's
Chiwetel is
direction.
great. Ridley Scott's direction is great.
Yeah.
Music is great.
Drew Goddard's script is fantastic. Matt Damon's never been
Yeah.
better.
Take my compliments.
Just take my compliments. Take some 4DX money, some IMAX money. Take all the money. Just give it me on Blu-ray now, please, so I can watch
can
it
you
many,
imagine it on
many
Blu?
more times.
That's going to look great on Blu-ray.
That week it's out. My House 3D Blu-ray. We're on.
That's happening.
Surround sound. We're doing the full works.
Number 5.
Suffragette. Carey Mulligan, Meryl Streep for...
I love how you
a
say
minute.
jet, and I say jet as if it's courgette.
Suffragettes.
I say it like courgette. Empowering, engaging, interesting feminist drama. Love the cinematography on it, which I'm not going to get into for obvious reasons. Carey Mulligan delivers the requisitely brilliant Carey Mulligan performance. The Meryl Streep cameo is as excellent as you'd expect and will naturally lead to her token Oscar nomination for the year. Helena Bonham Carter, though, I think deserves more props than she's gotten for this.
I feel like not a lot of people have been talking about her for
No,
this
and
particular film.
what the role that you think is played by Meryl Streep based on the marketing is actually the role that Helena Bonham Carter plays.
Right.
And Meryl Streep just has, I think, really one scene. And
She's in a car.
yeah. Oh no, she goes from what seems to be the Evita balcony to a car.
Okay.
That's her scene.
That's it.
But no, I did enjoy it very much.
Number 4.
Now, this film I don't think that you enjoyed quite as much. Paranormal Activity, The Ghost Dimension in 3D.
Well, they added a dimension to the ghost dimension. It's pointless, plodding, uninteresting, unentertaining, unfrightening gumph.
Yeah.
But you know what? If you've stuck with the series this far, what's one more? And you know what? The series is over, so thank God for that. But I will give it the one compliment I have to give it. It did very well with the 3D. It created an interesting 3D effect. I wouldn't have thought found footage and 3D can work together, and I hope they never try it again, because God knows I never want to see another found footage film, but it works in this case.
Number 3.
Nibsy.
So you
Come on, kid.
yeah, that's it. Nibsy is the takeaway.
Nibsy, yeah.
Nibsy
We
is
should
the-
have just called it Nibsy. Just Nibs of a movie.
I hope when it comes to the Oscar nominations, that Best Supporting Actor does go to blah-de-blah Joe Blogs for Nibsy. Just as the joke nomination. But,
Pan. Oh, just bad.
Avoid it.
Bad,
It's
bad,
so
bad.
bad. And that's the thing, because I wasn't interested at any point in the story. I think you kind of hope you go along with the introduction and the whole, the abduction, we're going to Neverland thing, because you go along with it all because it's Joe Wright. He can direct 1940s London just fine, and you go along in the assumption that once it gets to Neverland, you are going to see something spectacular, and you don't, and you get a very dull kind of requisite revisionist chosen one origin story trademark.
But we've seen how many times?
Superman did it last year, so
Yeah.
we've seen it. Spider-Man did it the year before that. We've seen it so many times now. I'm bored of this now. Not everyone is the chosen one. Ugh. And Peter Pan especially is not the damn chosen one.
But he was wearing panpipes, so
was
he
wearing
must
panpipes.
be. But he needs to prove himself.
Yeah,
first.
you're wearing panpipes. The prophecy says the boy who wears the panpipes.
However, jump off that cliff.
But please
fly.
prove yourself. Well, what? Why?
Yeah.
Number 2.
Hotel Transylvania 2. I was planning on seeing this.
I was gonna say.
I know, right. We were going to see it and then got waylaid because life has other plans.
I was going to text you on Sunday night. So did you see it? Did you see it? But
hopefully it's going to be this Sunday's film.
fair enough.
I have to see it.
You have to see it.
I'm really, really looking forward to it.
I really love the Gendy Tarkovsky.
I love his animation style.
Yeah,
I love that.
it is, because it's slightly more simplistic than, for instance, Bruce Timm, who is my favourite animator, because I grew up on the whole 90s Batman animated thing.
Yeah.
But Gendy Tarkovsky comes sort of after that for me, because he as well was a relic of the 90s with things like Johnny Bravo, Samurai Jack, and things like that. And I love his animation style, and I think it's translated nicely to the big screen. I would like to see him do other projects outside of this Hotel Transylvania thing, because there will inevitably be a third one.
Well, there is, but he's not going to direct it. I would assume he'll be involved in an exec producer kind of capacity, but he won't be the director.
Oh, okay. So, well, I'd like to see him try something else, though. I wouldn't object to seeing a Hotel Transylvania 3, but I don't think it's a franchise that's got too much. I don't think any of these animated franchises have that much longevity in them. There comes a stage when
you don't want to watch Ice Age 5.
We are going to be watching Ice Age 5, but that's the thing, that's gone too far. We didn't need 4 Shreks, we don't need 5 Ice Ages, we didn't need 3 Madagascars. These things can be single films, and you can still just go and do an animated series. If there's longevity in them, take them to an animated series.
But they often do it as well.
That's the problem, yeah. And I've not seen Dragon Rider, so I have no idea how that fits into How to Train Your Dragon, but given how much I loved the second one, I might give that one a try.
Number 1.
Oh, this is a bit of a shocker. This is it's the top spot, isn't it? Spectre with 41 million.
Because you couldn't see it. It was sold out everywhere.
Oh my god. Just to put it in some kind of context, the next one down, Hotel Transylvania 2, 2 million.
2.4 million versus 41. Oh, Jesus.
Wow.
Right, so Spectre, you saw it.
Yes, I did. We spoke about it obviously last week. We reviewed it.
30-second or less version?
Yeah. It's fine. I didn't enjoy it as much as Skyfall. It's probably just below Casino Royale for me, I would say.
Actually,
in terms of the Daniel Craig.
I'll go with that. This is my third favourite of the Daniel Craig movies.
I think if it is the last one for him, it does wrap it up quite nicely. What I didn't go into last week, I'd like the team dynamic for this one.
Yes.
Because I feel like we've not seen that for Bond.
The Bond team dynamic works better, doesn't it?
Yeah, and we've got a great cast for that dynamic.
They do, and I would hope that even if Daniel Craig leaves, that they keep the casting on. For instance, Moneypenny, Q. I would imagine that to be the case.
I would hope
so.
It
has been.
Yeah.
But I think I was unenthralled by it. I wasn't too entertained, but because it was a very baggy film. There's a lot of bagginess to the film.
It was long.
It's also
There's some pacing issues.
It is, but also it keeps its gritty sort of streak going only when it suits it, which is really antagonising. Yeah. But never mind, neither here nor there. So, some more film news before we move on to the last review for this bit. Amy Winehouse.
Oh yeah, there's going to be an actual biopic. Yeah, because we had Amy.
You had Amy, which is now being pushed for Oscars, deservedly so. I could see that winning, actually.
Oh, it's got loads of competition.
I don't, because it's so high profile.
One of which we're going to be talking about.
Well, yes. But Noomi Rapace has been cast as Amy Winehouse.
I can see that.
My thing is she not too old? Also, how the hell is Noomi Rapace going to pull that voice off?
That's a good point. Yeah.
Because no one's thought about that voice. Because Amy Winehouse had a great, beautiful singing voice. Her speaking voice, not quite so.
They might have just got the rights to certain songs and whatnot. We'll just do.
I know the music rights are going through at the moment, but
is Mitch Winehouse actually letting somebody be in charge of that?
I have no idea, and I don't really want to get onto a conversation about Mitch Winehouse.
I can't stand him.
I can't stand him either, but I just find it easier not to talk about him. Yeah. So one final bit then. Bad Santa 2, which is a project I'm following under a microscope. I don't know why there's going to be a Bad Santa 2, but there is. It's now going to be directed by Mark Waters, who brought us Mean Girls.
Yeah, of course.
And Tony Cox and Brett Kelly are both returning as the elf.
Yeah.
What's his name? What's the elf's name? The elf sidekick.
I forget. Yeah.
And Thurman Merman.
Thurman Merman, of course.
Thurman Merman and the elf are back for the sequel.
No word. Here is my question. Yeah, about Lauren Graham.
Yeah, no word on Lauren Graham. Apparently, they are looking for a female lead though, which suggests that she won't be returning.
Get Alexis Bledel. Get Rory. Get Rory.
Yeah, get Rory in. We had Lorelai. Get Rory in.
I'll settle for Emily. I'll have the mum. I'll have the grandma.
You know what? Going really niche with it. Get Melissa McCarthy in.
Oh, she's too expensive.
She's too expensive. Fair enough. So one final review then before the break. He Named Me Malala. Should we do that?
Yes, certainly.
Real quick on this one. This is a documentary about Malala Yousafzai, who is a Pakistani girl who stood up to the Taliban. But this is how we presented with it. She stood up to the Taliban, claiming that girls deserved an education. She was shot in the head for her troubles, survived, and then went on to become a spokesperson for girls and education. All around the world, third world countries, etc. She became a high-profile public figure and even won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2014. We have a clip.
My father said, "Have you forgiven them?"
All this time, you've never felt angry?
No, not even as small as an atom, or maybe the nucleus of an atom, or maybe a proton, or maybe a quark.
Never angry?
Never. Islam teaches us humanity, equality, forgiveness. It doesn't matter for me if my left side of my face isn't working, or if I cannot blink this eye properly. It doesn't matter for me if I can't smile properly. It doesn't matter that I'm not hearing in this ear. I can't hear.
So He Named Me Malala there. There are problems with the... I mean, it's a great documentary. It's very moving. It's very inspiring. It does present its own problems, though. And its problems come down to a very disjointed narrative, which inadvertently adds fuel to a negative fire which doesn't need to be there. The film begins with her being, coming out of the coma, the mentally induced coma, etc., recovering, going on to become the figure that she is. And it shows us what she is, but then, only in the third act does it show us why she is, by going back in time to the events that led up to her getting shot.
I think that's an interesting standpoint.
Problem is that the film, by doing that, stands on this platform of she was a sort of, have-a-go hero who, decided one day to just speak out because she couldn't take it anymore. In the third act, it then emerges, of course, that she grew up under her dad's very similarly themed tutelage and not only spoke out many, many times publicly, she also worked with the BBC. And he's like, okay, this has gone a bit... This has gone more into the realm of a straight-out assassination story, which you can't help but think if you'd just gone in with that at the beginning, this story would have played, a lot better. It's not that it undermines the point. It's that it kind of puts the point on very shaky ground. And you think, with a piece as uplifting and as inspiring as He Named Me Malala is, you kind of can't help but wonder why you would make that decision. It's the kind of thing that you would look at in the editing stage and think, no, the timeline's a little bit too disjointed. It's created an inadvertent second narrative. It's weirdly created this idea that, her dad has put ideas in her head, which I'm not saying is the case, but the film could really be interpreted that way. And it's purely down to this narrative and how you structured certain events. You think, just put this linearly. Put this linearly and you answer all the problems. The problem is, no. It has got some absolutely beautiful animation, though. It narrates the story of Malala, who was the Afghani princess in ye olden times. And it's animated really beautifully. I had to get the name of the animator somewhere. But, well, I did have it. But no, I don't. And that animation is absolutely terrific, really beautiful. And they come back to it several times. They show us Malala's birth, for instance, in the same way. Aside from that, the big sort of takeaway from the film is Malala herself, who is sort of instantly charming and disarmingly witty and genuinely a pleasant person to witness on screen. You kind of like getting to know her for the 90 minutes that you do. And that's all part of what makes it such an uplifting and inspiring sort of a story. I recommend it if you want that sort of uplifting sort of tale.
I do definitely want to see it.
But I would be intrigued to see what you make of its sort of disjointed narrative, to be honest, because that for me was a bit of a smudge on an otherwise perfectly enjoyable tale.
With the latest film news and reviews, this is OffScreen.
And we're back. So where shall we venture next, Mr.
Let's
Allen?
go to Brooklyn.
Let's go to Brooklyn. Sounds like a Wayne's World segue, doesn't it? Right, okay, so Brooklyn, which is the latest film starring Saoirse Ronan, who's an actress I wish was in more things.
Me too. She's great.
About every 12 to 18 months, she comes back with another great performance and reminds us that she's basically probably one of the top 3 young actresses out there now. Brooklyn is based on a novel, and you can tell straight off the bat that it is so, by Colm Toibin, I believe his name is. Novel of the same name. It's sort of a story that's equal parts American dream and melodrama. It's directed for the screen by John Crawley. It is the story of Eilish.
Say that name again?
Eilish.
Eilish.
Eilis. Eilish. Eilish is Irish, you see. And
really?
Yes, Irish Eilish, you see, leaves Ireland for the new world, for Brooklyn, in the early 50s, to venture out and get a slice of the American dream, as it were, make a life for herself. She's had a job and accommodation arranged for her by the local priest, played by Jim Broadbent.
Always good to see him.
It's only really a cameo by Jim Broadbent, but you know what? It's always lovely to see him.
Isn't it?
It is. When you know what you're getting.
Like in Paddington. He just shows up in Paddington and it's great.
You know, and so she's not long in Brooklyn when she encounters a new love, later husband, and before long she has to return to Ireland following her sister's funeral to just spend some time with her grieving mother. While she's there, however, her two worlds start to collide, and the aftermath may ensure that not much is left standing. We have a clip.
You going to live in America?
Yes.
Your papers and everything?
Yes. And a job.
How'd you manage to arrange all that?
I didn't. Someone did it for me. A priest my sister knows.
And how do you feel about it?
How long do letters from Ireland take to arrive? My sister Rose said she'd write straight away.
They take a long time at first. And then no time at all. You family in America? Friends?
No.
You'll meet people easily enough. Where are you going to live? Brooklyn?
How'd you know that?
Lucky guess.
So you have this really terrific performance by Saoirse Ronan, as you always do. You always get a great performance from Saoirse Ronan. You have this great performance, and you've got this fantastic supporting cast. I do mean fantastic supporting cast, which is Jim Broadbent, Julie Walters,
Donal Gleeson.
How do you say it?
Donal.
I've been calling him Domhnall.
It is spelt Domhnall, but
it's Donal.
It's Donal Gleeson.
Yeah. Donal Gleeson. And then you've got a couple of slightly on the nose, sort of a bit too cheeky performances by Eva Birtwistle, for instance, and bizarrely Emily Bett Rickards. Who do you know Emily Bett Rickards?
No.
Emily Bett Rickards plays the character Felicity in Arrow.
Oh, no way.
You know the nerd pin-up?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I think she's stunning to behold. She's
fantastic.
one of my favourite people on TV. But yeah, the nerd fodder in Arrow. Nerd fodder in Arrow. But they are slightly out of step. They're maybe a bit too goofy. But other than that, you have this immense supporting cast. I do mean brilliant. You've got a script. Do you know who writes Brooklyn?
I do not know.
brace yourself. Make sure you're strapped in for
I'm
this one.
strapped in.
I'm going to tell you first and foremost, the script for Brooklyn is terrific. I'm going to tell you that the character writing is top notch, and then I'm going to tell you the script for the screenplay for Brooklyn is written by Nick Hornby.
What? How did I not know that?
Hornby. I didn't know either. And you're like,
Shut
of
up.
course it's written by Nick Hornby. Well, why wouldn't it be written
I
by
want to
Nick
watch this
Hornby?
and watch An Education again. I want to watch from back to
And
back.
that's it. That's a very good comparison piece as well, because Brooklyn wears its influences on its sleeve, and Education is one of them.
Of course, yeah.
You've got Far and Away is in there, Atonement is in there. Yeah. All these great period piece melodrama romance tales, they're all in there. And then you say it wears more on its sleeve, but at least it adds that sleeve to a new and alluring outfit. And in the context of the number of outfits we get shown to us in this vintage paradise of a film, that's really saying something. It could perhaps have done with some slight tweaking as regards its pacing. It spends an awful lot of time, for instance, setting up Eilish's new life before it then threatens it. So don't get me wrong. By the time her new life is threatened, we think, okay,
kind of it needs that. Obviously, I've not seen it, but perhaps it needs that extra time to
if I were going to
make
hazard
you care
a
about
guess,
it.
I think it's 10 minutes short of 2 hours. I think.
Okay.
In terms of her going back to Ireland and the actual sort of the threat sort of plot coming in, that would appear to be about 25 minutes, no more than 30 before the end of the film. And it does seem to be entirely the third act. That's kind of a shame, because I would rather the film had gone on longer and let it unfold a bit more.
It was
naturally.
like 2:20, something like that.
Yeah, I could live.
That does sound like your
hour.
general meat of the film.
Yeah, it does, and it is the meat of the film. There's a lot of setup, and it's great setup. It's wonderful setup, and the third act, though, I will say, in spite of that pacing problem, Nick Hornby's writing really sells you on, for instance, the emerging relationship between Saoirse Ronan and Domhnall Gleeson. They're big, even though it's really hurried through. You really invest in their dynamic. You really get their relationship.
Well, he's always great with setting up characters, isn't he? Obviously, this is like an adaptation, but
yeah. So, I mean, that's the thing for me. It does race to the finish line. Once you get to the third act, it really races for the finish line. But it's an admirable and impressive race. And, coming towards the end of an admirable and impressive film. You go into Brooklyn and the plot immediately promises you a story of wonder and consequence. And you end, and what you've had is a film of wonder and consequence. That's actually great. You delivered it in spades. Good for you, John Crawley and Nick Hornby. Good for you. I want Nick Hornby to write more screenplays of this calibre.
I think that he will. When was the last time that he wrote a book? When was the last time he wrote just a novel?
A few years, isn't it?
Because he's been kind of concentrating on
he seems to have gone
screenplays
into
and originals.
But I don't remember him writing a book since How to Be Good.
He did a really great project with Ben Folds a few years ago.
Yeah.
It was an album where Ben Folds did the music and sang, and then all the lyrics were done by Nick Hornby. It's really good. I forget what the album's called, but you can Google it and stuff.
If anyone knows music and lyrics, it's Nick Hornby. It's the writer
and Hugh Grant. He knows music and lyrics.
So, Riz Ahmed. We've got to talk about Riz Ahmed this week.
Oh yeah, he's joined something, hasn't he?
He's joined the Bourne sequel.
Yeah, I am on board with this.
I am very on board. This is starting to sound pretty
Get the
interesting.
reluctant fundamentalist on board. Get him in.
Get him in, and what else have we got? We got Key and Peele. We've got to talk about Key and Peele.
Oh, this is great.
Key and Peele are teaming up with Henry Selick to do an animated stop-motion film.
Has this got a name already?
Wendell and Wild. Yeah.
Wow.
Which is brilliant. This is fantastic. Key and Peele doing an animated film. Can't wait.
I love that. Obviously, the show was fantastic, but it has sadly come to an end. But now they're doing films together.
I know. I can't wait. There's so much sort of fertile ground there for me. So, what should we do next? Misery Loves Company?
Yes, let's do it.
Misery Loves Comedy. I knew we put the wrong
You said Misery Loves Company.
I said Misery Loves Company, yeah. I almost put the wrong trailer on the site because of that.
Okay. Misery Loves Comedy.
Well, so we're now a year past the death of Robin Williams, and the discussion of the link between comedy and internal happiness is now more of a prominent discussion than ever before. So you've got this documentary, Misery Loves Comedy, which is written and directed by Kevin Pollak. Yeah. who most of us remember as the lazy eye guy from Wayne's World 2. Lazy
cross
eye?
for T's and dot the lowercase J's.
Partial ocular albino, I believe, from Wayne's World 2.
That's the politically
Correct term. He dots the T's and dots the lowercase J's. And he's written and directed this. This is an exploration of the happiness of comedians. Does misery generally love comedy? Do the two go hand in hand? We have a clip.
There's nothing like getting a laugh from people.
It's the narcissist fantasy.
It's easily the single craziest thing that I have ever done in my life.
No one knows but us what we go through.
And it's my job to sit there and yell at drunks.
You can do whatever you want. You can yell, you can spit. It's great. You can do that publicly.
Comedy is a drug.
I was connected with these thousands of people around the world.
And they were just like, we know you're making this up as you go along, and it's not good.
It went from them loving me to them hating me.
I came crawling back after being chewed up and spit out by this goddamn town.
So, naturally enough, if you get a certain number of comedians on camera to do talking head interviews, as this film does, before long it's going to become, amusing and interesting. And this very much does. However, that being said, it seems to be a case of quantity over quality, because what he's done is he's gone and gotten so many famous names in there.
They're quite big names as well.
Tom Hanks is in there.
He's a big name.
Tom Hanks is in there.
Rarely get any bigger.
Amy Schumer's in there. Jason Alexander's in there.
Okay.
A bunch of big names. David Koechner, Jim Jeffries. I'm a big fan of Jim Jeffries.
I like Jim Jeffries a lot.
You like Jim Jeffries?
Yeah, shocking.
I would have thought he would be a little bit lowbrow for you.
I do go lowbrow.
Do you go blue? Do you go a bit blue, Case?
Bit blue fit lads.
Yeah, bit blue fit lads. Yeah, that's really lowbrow. That reference. And this is where it gets a bit funny. Kevin Pollak's definition of the term comedian is slightly broad, and this is confirmed early on when Freddie Prinze Jr. turns up. And the look on your face kind of sums up my feelings on this one as well. And you're kind of wondering all the way through this, why the hell Freddie Prinze Jr. is there? Yeah. And it's not until very, very late in the game that they all of a sudden start discussing Freddie Prinze Jr.'s late father, who actually was a comedian. And they force Freddie Prinze Jr., who incidentally is now middle-aged and grey-haired, to very awkwardly relive all of his father's various infidelities and misdeeds, which you can't help but wonder exactly who thought this one was a good idea.
Misdeeds? How? What kind of misdeeds?
Oh, drugs, alcohol, women, the usual.
Right.
But they force Freddie Prinze Jr. to go through it, because obviously Freddie Prinze Sr. ain't around to...
Obviously, yeah.
Yeah. And you think, well, that's very odd. And very awkward and very uncomfortable.
I wonder why he agreed to do that, unless it was quite cathartic for him to...
I don't know. He takes it in his stead, don't get me wrong. Yeah. He's good-natured.
Constant professional.
But then you get to, because there are clips played over the end credits, you actually witness more of the end credits than you would otherwise. And you can't help but notice a thank you to section, a thanks section, which includes the names of an awful lot of relatively known US comedians. And I'm thinking of people of the likes, for instance, of Richard Kind.
Okay, yeah. Bing Bong.
Bing Bong. And you can't help but look, hang on. So Richard Kind was involved in this, but I can't imagine that you've got all these people on this thanks list and you didn't interview them. And you can't help but think that they were interviewed. But those clips are in, and I say this with some authority because it's written directly underneath, edited on Adobe Premiere. Those clips are in the Adobe Premiere clips bin. That's where those interviews are. They're in Pollak's Adobe Premiere bin. It's very strange. The problem is that because you've got this celebratory gathering of comedians all telling, happy celebratory stories of, working in stand-up comedy, and they've all these anecdotes. Oh, you go on at 11 at this club, and you go to this other club at 1 a.m, and you go on stage, and then by the time you're done, it's 4 a.m, and really you just want to eat. Okay.
Sounded like Louis C.K. a little bit, man.
Yeah, Louis C.K. doesn't turn up in this, but Louis Black does, incidentally.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, Anger does turn up.
Anger turns up, yeah.
The problem is, because it's got all these anecdotes, it doesn't really make much of a point. You then get to, very, very late in the film, I'd say probably about 15 minutes before the end, and there is this notable moment where Kevin Pollak has seemingly sat in the edit suite and thought, oh God, we're nearly at the end of the film. Get me the clips that actually had the point, and we'll just whack them all in at the end. And that's it. All of a sudden, everyone just spontaneously stopped. Yeah, so as about personal happiness, and I've struggled with depression. But this is 15 minutes before the end. You're thinking...
Oh, it's kind of shoehorned in.
Yeah. They've shoehorned in the point. You think, okay, I can understand if you want to shoehorn in the other stuff, but you're a documentary. Your job is to educate, entertain, and inform.
Yeah. Has Kevin Pollak made any other documentaries?
Offhand, I couldn't tell you. I think of him mainly as a comedian, but
I think of him as a guy from Wayne's World 2, like you said.
I think of him mainly as a comedic performer. I know he has done other things, but I think of him mainly as a comedian.
This is his first film he's directed, so maybe he's just he's finding his way with...
You think maybe?
Structuring, perhaps, I don't know.
Well, I'm not sure what the release schedule's been. I know it came out about a month ago in the US, but funnily enough, this coincides with this week with the widow of Robin Williams finally opening up about her husband. And you think, oh, well, it's a shame you couldn't tie that in. You couldn't have tied in the interview somehow. But if someone had actually said, well, why don't you do the interview for us and we'll tie this in, we'll make it a mental health awareness. And that's the other problem with miseryless comedy. It's weirdly dismissive of the idea of mental health. And it generally takes its misery, for instance, purely as emotional misery rather than any kind of mental health problem. And you think, well, that's strange, because Jim Jeffries himself brings up that he struggles with depression. And you think, well, that's kind of glossed over because only Jim Jeffries really mentions it. But
I would have thought that would have been the
you
central
would have thought
idea.
that'd be the point, wouldn't you?
Just from that title, you get that sense, and that's a film I would want to watch.
No, that's the problem. The interviewees are engaging. It's very celebratory for stand-up comedy, but ultimately it's a bit of a whopping misfire. But it's a shame. I wanted to enjoy it, didn't quite. Ooh, competitions plug for the week.
Yeah, let's do it.
Pop along to onscreenfilm.com. Go in our competition section. We've got some goodies to give away, including goodies for the next film we're reviewing. Kill Your Friends.
Yes.
We've got those. So we've got stuff going up all the time.
Always.
We can't really plug it in advance because I can get an email this afternoon that's stuff that's going to go on Monday.
If you just keep going on periodically every
keep
week.
going periodically on onscreenfilm.com and go in the competition. There is stuff added.
If you want some kind of novelty Maze Runner notepad, you try your best.
If you want a set of playing cards for a movie which doesn't feature playing cards, odds are they're on there. But
I've still got some Exodus ones.
Have you still got some Exodus
from
ones?
last year.
I've still got the Men in Black 3 ones somewhere.
I think I do, actually. Oh, man.
With that big poker scene in Men in Black 3.
Oh, of course, yeah. All the, space dogs.
Yeah. And,
space dogs playing space poker.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that one, yeah. So, we've got to talk as well about hashtag Force for Daniel.
Oh, this is great.
This is a wonderful story.
This is fantastic.
Which, weirdly,
Fanboys.
It's already been a movie, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's so strange. Yeah.
It's weird. This exact thing happened. I wonder if that's where he got the idea.
Oh, potentially. I don't know.
So, terminally ill young man named Daniel Fleetwood, he's 32, terminally ill, is not expected to necessarily be in great shape or even alive by the time Star Wars The Force Awakens opens in December. Someone got in touch with Disney's behalf. A movement began. Hashtag Force for Daniel.
Yep.
And J.J. Abrams phoned him personally and offered him a private screening of an unfinished edit of Star Wars The Force Awakens. How fantastic is that?
It makes me happier to be in this world knowing that. Yeah. Good on you, JJ. Well done.
Good for you, JJ. Yeah. I wonder if Lucas would have done that.
Oh, I don't know.
He probably would have said, the version you're going to see now is going to be completely different to the one that's in cinemas.
I bet George Lucas is just annoyed that he hasn't seen any versions. I don't know if we're making one.
Don't let him see. Don't let him see what a good Star Wars movie looks like.
That's it.
A good 21st century one, anyway.
Yeah.
So, on to Kill Your Friends, then.
Yes.
Which is the adaptation of the novel by John Niven. Excellent. You're a fan, aren't you?
I am, yeah. I said last week this is my favourite book. I would put it in my top 5.
Really?
Yeah, I've had a rethink and I've looked at the books that I love. I put it in my 5, definitely.
You put it in your 5? Yeah. Okay, fair enough. So this is an adaptation of the novel by John Niven, directed by Owen Harris and starring Nicholas Hoult, James Corden, Georgia King, Tom King, I believe, from Da Vinci's Demons.
Yeah.
Jim Piddock.
Craig Roberts, did you say Craig Roberts?
Craig Roberts, I believe. Yeah. Hell of a cast.
Good cast.
And this is the story of Stephen Stelfox. Stephen Stelfox, a 27-year-old music industry A&R man, which we all forget is what Simon Cowell used to do for a living.
Yeah.
This is how we wound up with Mr. Blobby and who were the characters from The Big Breakfast?
Oh man,
he gave them a record as well.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, this is how Simon Cowell became.
And now he's a multi-billionaire.
So, basically, Stephen Stelfox will do anything to be the top of his game. He won't stop it. There is no limit to what he will do, no line he will not cross. But as his endeavours start to fall down around him, he finds himself increasingly desperate and forced to resort to measures that even he would have found deplorable, or at least slightly reprehensible.
A bit dodgy.
Beforehand. Here's a clip.
Last year, 1996, the turnover of the British music industry passed the £1 billion mark for the first time.
A seed.
Boom times. But there's always competition. Imagine you're standing on wafer-thin ice. Beneath your feet, you can see sharks circling. Terrible sharks with hypodermic syringes for teeth. These are your colleagues, your friends. Roger and I both have to live with an uncomfortable statistic. At some point in the coming year, one of us will probably be fired. I have no intention of it being me.
I'm going to guess that this is from the novel as well, the really ruthless, really sadistic streak that fuels this film. Now, I wanted to confirm that because it is the defining triumph of this film, is this tone. Its tone is absolutely wonderful. It's been compared a lot to American Psycho, and there is a very, very good reason for it, because it's the only thing like it in the world that you can think of, is something like that. I did say as well, it reminds you of sort of Bret Easton Ellis films like Less Than Zero, things like that, although more comedically tinged. The Bret Easton Ellis thing perhaps is because of the American Psycho connection. You also have Nicholas Hoult, whose performance here is the first time you will ever look at Nicholas Hoult and think, wow, you actually have genuine leading man potential.
You can carry a film.
I never thought that of Nicholas Hoult
I
before.
still need to see this film, and I need to be convinced, because this book, I loved it. It was one of those books, and it's happened very, very rarely, where I started reading it, and I carried on, and it took me less than a day. I just powered through it and read it. I mean, I've read it 2-3 times since then.
Well, Nicholas Hoult is terrific as the Stephen Stelfox that we get on screen. Where it falls apart slightly is in his voiceover, which is really sort of Stilton, and he struggles with his elocution somewhat. It's kind of odd. It's not quite up to the level of Emily Browning in Legend. But
London in
1960s. Bit Peggy Mitchell there, Emily. Bit Peggy Mitchell. But Nicholas Hoult is at least trying, and he does fare better than Emily Browning did, but it's still slightly too Stilton. And he is having a ball, quite clearly. Why wouldn't you?
That's it.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you have fun playing
It's a
this
fantastic character. That's the thing. I mean, obviously he's not the person I would have chosen, but I need to see the film.
I would definitely see it. You've got Georgia King in there as well, whom I have a newfound love for. She makes this delightfully sort of seductive, sinister presence. But albeit sort of unexpectedly, she's introduced as one thing, becomes another, she's a character that evolves. And it seems to happen sort of in the background, sort of just over the shoulder of the characters you're supposed to be watching. You've then got James Corden, who's he's playing slightly against type, and it works.
So you play Waters, the biggest.
Yes, he does.
There's a scene.
There is a scene you probably expect, and you've got Joseph Maul, who plays the head of, I forget the name of the character, the head of business for the label. Yeah. If his performance isn't based on Lucifer himself, I would be somewhat shocked. However, though, I do think the MVP is Edward Hogg.
Now, Edward Hogg is fantastic.
Do you like Edward Hogg?
Yeah.
I can see
Bunny
why.
Bunny and the Bull. Have you ever seen Bunny and the Bull?
No.
Oh, he's... you need to see that out.
He plays DC Woodham here, who is this sort of... the Willem Dafoe character.
I was just going to say, he's Willem Dafoe, isn't he?
So wide-eyed and creepy and just not quite... You
just
don't
a bit off kilter.
a bit off kilter. You don't quite know how this one's going to work out. It does play along the lines of Willem Dafoe's An American Psycho, almost bit for bit in places. It's a film, though, that thrives on energy. It's all about the energy of the visuals by Owen Harris, which are quite frenetic, quite sort of frantic. You've got John Niven's also done the screenplay for this as well, so it's a really...
That has given me some faith.
Yeah, it's a really razor-sharp screenplay. I would imagine it's quite faithful to the book, because certain things are so detailed that you think they have to be.
There's some aspects in the book, obviously, again, not seeing the film, but there's things I don't know how they can put it in the film.
Example? Just give me one.
There's a scene, I think it's after the Brit Awards, he meets James Dean Bradfield from the Mannix and then goes into a room and sees some people doing things.
Doing things? No, I don't believe that's in there.
Right.
Is there a line in the book about Oasis are a couple of car thieves with a Beatles songbook? Because that had me howling in laughter. But he does.
That's accurate, though, isn't
it? It is, well. So you've got the visuals, you've got the razor sharp screenplay.
How is the soundtrack?
That's what I was going to say. The best retro soundtrack of this year. If last year belonged to Guardians of the Galaxy, this year belongs to Kill Your Darlings. And I've been playing 90s music.
You said it again. It's
Kill Your Friends. I've been listening to 90s music all week as a result. I think the very first song in the film, I believe, is Beetle Bum.
Nice.
And he sort of spins out from there. There's a lot of Prodigy in there. There's a lot of Chemical Brothers in there.
That's what you want.
And that's another thing, because the film does kind of prove that there is still a purpose for the Chemical Brothers in 2015.
Oh, they're still doing well, man.
That's it. It is a fun, thrilling, enjoyable film. It's the kind of film that you want to enjoy with your friends. Go have a... If you're above a certain... If you're over 25, if you can remember the 90s music in any way, because I was talking to Chris Honeysett from the Sunday People afterwards, and we were talking about the soundtrack, and I went, it's like I was 15 again. And he said, bloody hell. I was like, it took me back to when I was like 25. I'm like, really? And it is, and everyone's talking. I would have come out like talking about your 90s.
I was probably like 8 or 9.
You'll remember this music,
listening to Blur. Yeah.
You'll remember when the radio was good.
Oh yeah, definitely. I remember watching Top of Pops and watching Nicky Wire from the Mannix on there and being utterly, terrified. I think really for Nicky Wire.
So, kill your friends definitely, but make sure you take them to the cinema with you first, definitely. So, any more film news to cover?
Just a couple more pieces, I think.
We've got Luke Evans as replacing Jared Leto in The Girl on the Train.
Yeah, that'll be fine.
I'm okay with that. Okay. Kevin Spacey has signed on to star in The Billionaire Boys Club as Ron Levin. If you don't know the true story, it is of two young men who basically set up a Ponzi scheme in 80s LA to fund their lavish lifestyle, only to find one of their investors is penniless and kill him. Said murder victim inevitably going to be Kevin Spacey.
The two boys
are going to be Ansel Elgort.
Yeah, he's great. I like him a lot.
Perfectly fine. And Taron Egerton.
Fair
enough. So, last review of the week then, Sir Nicolas Cage.
The world's greatest living actor.
The world's greatest living actor, Nicolas Cage, in The Runner, which is his third film in as many weeks, strangely enough. We didn't review one because it went straight to DVD.
He's had a quite slow year, hasn't he?
Yes, yeah. We had Pay the Ghost, that went to DVD.
Yes.
We reviewed Outcast.
Yeah.
Which was last week, I believe, wasn't it?
It was.
And now we've got The Runner as well. So this is the directorial debut of producer Austin Stark, which you think...
That's a good name.
How Games of Thrones is that name? Austin Stark. And this is something unusual for Nicolas Cage, really. I mean, not unusual in the grand scheme of his career, but unusual in recent years. This is a straight drama. And you think, okay, I'm on board with that because I liked Joe. I liked Joe very much.
Of course, yeah.
What was the Paul Schrader one? Dying of the Light.
I didn't like Dying of the Light.
Dying of the Light. I thought idea was good, execution not so much.
Is that one where he gets his ear chopped off?
Yes, that's it. Yeah. Yes, that's the CIA Dementia one.
Yeah.
This is somewhat more of a drama than his usual generic thriller that he's made his bread and butter. You know, the mortgage-paying films.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is kind of a Faustian character drama. It's a performance-driven look at sort of moralistic compromise, and it all centres around the wake of the BP oil spill. Yes. So Nicolas Cage is a US congressman. I believe he was a congressman at first. US congressman for his district, which is struggling to overcome the fallout of the BP oil spill. Local economy is going into the toilet, local businesses are closing down, there's environmental concerns, and he sets out to challenge Washington and BP to fix what they have ruined. However, his the popularity he gains and the career rise he obtains as a result of it also bring with it personal scandal, which swiftly ruins him, and he's forced to then rebuild his life and reassess his priorities, whilst also fighting for the good people of his constituency. Here is a clip of Sir Nick of Cage.
Mostly bloggers and local. It's what you'd expect. Speculation about a return to politics, questions about the motives behind your organization.
And people calling me a narcissistic asshole.
I warned you the press was going to spin it this way. You didn't wait long enough for the dust to settle. At least you haven't commented publicly.
I just don't understand how my work can be construed as a negative. I mean, this isn't some resume builder, okay?
Then why do you have a publicist?
No good deed goes unscrutinized.
Not when you're a politician.
So, to Nicolas Cage's credit, his performance here and sort of, of the downfall and sort of the rebirth of his congressman, whose name is Price, incidentally, not based on a real guy, even though they're real events. Yeah. They are a step above what I think we get usually from Nicolas Cage.
The straight-to-DVD.
A step above his usual direct-to-DVD fare. He's not overacting at all, which seems to be his usual forte. I mean, for God's sake, Outcast. I mean, considering the last time we saw him on screen was Outcast, good God.
Yeah, well, he's doing 20 different accents,
and
he's wearing a dead crow on his head, like Johnny Depp.
Yeah. And the issue is that he's not overacting, but he is restricted, strangely, by this material, which simply can't live up to the quality of him as a performer. And you've got a great supporting cast. You've got Connie Nielsen, Peter Fonda, Wendell Pierce, Sarah Paulson. Sarah Paulson's in this. Yeah. And they're trying their best to sort of, aid Nicolas Cage in propping this film up. Yeah. But ultimately, you've got a weak screenplay. You've got very stilted and very TV movie direction. And it feels very much like a TV movie all throughout. And that's the problem. It is entirely too televisual, entirely too ropey. And then in the centre of it all, you've got these performances which are light years ahead of what else has been delivered. It's just a whopping disappointment, and I never thought I'd say this. I expected better from Nicolas Cage.
What, after watching Outcast?
Actually, yeah. But actually, that's the thing. It's not Nicolas Cage's fault. It's all on Austin Stark. It's his screenplay, it's his direction, and it doesn't quite come together. It doesn't work, and that's a shame because the story is interesting.
It does sound interesting.
That's it. The story is interesting, and it would make a great movie. But I think it needs a better screenplay and better director. Shame. Can't win them all. Yeah. Sorry, Nick. You weren't the problem this time.
But I'm sure you'll have another film out in a fortnight.
We'll be reviewing another Nick Cage film a week or so.
Oh, absolutely.
I'd imagine.
Yeah.
So, film of the week.
What are you
Kill
gonna
Your
give it to?
Friends.
Okay, cool.
Gonna give it to Kill Your Friends. I have to. It was the most fun. But next week we've got some interesting ones.
We do, yeah.
So next week we've got The Hallow. Which
I am excited about that.
It's Corin Hardy,
Michael Smiley. There's a couple of unknowns. I'm not sure of the names, but I've heard good things.
It's an Irish horror film, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
We've also got Tangerine. That's out next week. We've got The Fear of 13. We have the return of Russell Crowe in Fathers and Daughters, in which he will star alongside Amanda Seyfried. Yeah. Not sure how that one's going to pan out. Maggie Smith is the lady in the van.
I can't wait for that.
It could be interesting. And of course, we have probably the fourth film in the last few years we made on this particular subject. Steve Jobs, directed by Danny Boyle.
Yeah.
Doesn't feel like we have a new Danny Boyle film on the horizon, does it?
No, but when you watch it, it feels like a Danny Boyle.
Does it feel like that? Because you've seen this and I haven't. So I'm seeing it Monday morning.
I enjoyed it a great deal.
I'm looking forward to getting to trade notes on you with that one. So that's all we've got time for this week off screen. This has been a Candystore production for OnScreen. I've been Van Connor.
My name is Kase Allen.
And we'll be back next week.
Just show me the way to get out of here, and I'll be on my way.
You've been listening to OffScreen. For more news and reviews, visit onscreenfilm.com.